Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, it's all but quiet before the storm. The Senators still unsure whether they'll be able to ice an entire lineup when they open the regular season tomorrow in Carolina.
And we have a special guest. It's Noodles on the show today to talk about the Ottawa Senators goalie tandem and his level of concern for Josh Norris and Shane Pinto.
Without those two in the lineup tomorrow, special teams are set. Who's on the power play? Who's on the penalty kill? We'll get into all that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 891 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. You can follow Locked On Senators on social media, Send Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where you can like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Today's comment, we want to know how you would solve the Senators cap situation. We'll get into that soon. Easier said than done at this point. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. You can use it to head to the home opener next Saturday in Ottawa. That is the Game Time app. Today is Tuesday, October 10th in Pilsy. It is so chaotic in Sens land right now, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with welcome to the 2023-2024 NHL season. 3 games happening tonight. And yeah, the Ottawa Senators are going to play tomorrow up against the Carolina Hurricanes. But are they going to have a full roster on the ice? Probably not, to quote Daniel Alfredson. Probably not.
Probably not is right.
Probably not.
Alfie, they going to have full roster?
Probably not.
No, probably not, because Zack MacEwan hasn't been at practice the last 2. He's not going on long-term injured reserve. Josh Norris isn't going on long-term injured reserve. Shane Pinto is sitting on Long Island waiting for a contract to be acceptable to his terms and the Senators' terms to make sure he can get here sooner rather than later. Ian Mendez pointed out that it took Brady Tkachuk 7 days after he signed to get into the lineup. So immediate help isn't coming even if they do solve the Shane Pinto situation today. They're going to have to deal with the players they have. But if Zack MacEwan can't play due to the salary cap being so close to the Senators, $62,000 away, they're going to have to play with 11 forwards and 6 defensemen.
I mean, Guy Boucher loved 11-7, but 11-6, not a math guy, but that doesn't add up to the proper amount of players. Ross, I went on record yesterday, and I've been on record multiple times saying this team could win the Stanley Cup this year. They can't even get the proper amount of players on the ice for the opening night of the season. What are we doing here? This is embarrassing. Oh my God. If you're Michael Andlauer and you're sitting here and he said it. This is a bit of a pickle they're in with Shane Pinto. This is a jar of pickles here, not even being able to put the proper amount of guys on the ice. It doesn't even matter who they are or what their contracts are. You can't even get it done to have 12 forwards to go up against the Carolina Hurricanes to start the season off. What is the one thing that bites the Sens every year? Getting off to a slow start. I don't know. I'm not an expert. So you're saying you're an expert. We got a lot of sound bites today. But I would say a great recipe for success is having the same amount of guys as the team you're up against. This is absolutely brutal for Sens fans that are coming into this season with optimism, with hype, with nervous excitement. I don't know, Ross. This is not how I wanted to start things off, and this is not how I wanted to unveil the new roster that's supposed to take a new step this season. My God.
It's a failure of being a cap team. And maybe it's something where Pierre Dorion and the Sens management just didn't know how to get as close to the cap as possible. Julien Brisebois, who the Senators will see Sunday in Ottawa, the Tampa Bay Lightning, are $2 away from the cap. Like, that is how you manipulate the cap to get as close as possible. The Senators are $62,000 away without their top young centerman sign. I shouldn't say top because they're all young down the middle, but Shane Pinto certainly would help this team be a lot better than what they have right now. But my biggest issue is that the whole quote going into the season was the best players play. You cannot look at me and tell me that Parker Kelly, although he had a good last game in the preseason, Zack MacEwan, and there's probably a couple other guys, were better than Yuri Smejkal in the preseason. They just weren't. Yuri Smejkal went out there and did everything he could to earn a spot on an NHL roster, and now he can't. And it's not like he's even potentially being replaced. They might just have to have an empty spot up front. Imagine Yuri Smejkal agreeing to terms. I'm sure other teams are looking at him this summer, and they're like, hey, you play well, you're going to make the team. No, we're actually going to have an empty spot up front instead of you because we just can't. Sorry. We prioritized other things, and then the guy they prioritized, Vladimir Tarasenko, this isn't his problem, but now they're playing him on the third line. Like, come on.
Yeah, I don't know, Ross. And it's not like Yuri Smejkal, it's like, well, you asked for way too much money. He's making $870,000. Like, that is a reasonable price for a guy to come in and make the roster here, especially after a good preseason. Like, this is bad. This is bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. And I'm pretty confident that Josh Norris is not going to play tomorrow.
Although Josh Norris has traveled with the team to Carolina. So there's that. I'm not sure about Zack MacEwan if he's traveled with the team or not, but at least he's boots on the ground.
Yeah, boots. I want him skates on the ice.
Yeah.
Let's go with skates on the ice as a new slogan here. I mean, Josh Norris being on the ice and traveling with the team, sure, that should provide some optimism. But if they were serious about him playing, he wouldn't be lining up as a fourth line right winger. He'd be lining up ideally as a second line center, ideally as a center at all. The only times we've seen him on the ice is a fourth line right winger and paired with Max Gannett. Like, this guy's not going to play. He's not going to play. This team is going to get off to a bad start again. And
as Jamie McLennan tells us, though, they do have so many home games at the start of the year. Those cannot be wasted. The Senators need to figure out a way to start strong. And if I'm DJ Smith, I'm pretty mad at Pierre Dorion right now. Like, yeah, there's nothing you can do about the Josh Norris situation, but like not having Shane Pinto, I mean, this is just a failure in cap management. He is, may I remind everyone, the only unsigned restricted free agent. The Ducks had two they had to take care of at the start of training camp. They got Trevor Zegras done. They got Jamie Drysdale done. Shane Pinto is the last remaining free agent. And as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, the Senators have $62,620 in cap space. Good luck figuring all that out. But Pilsy, there is still reasons for optimism. We asked Jamie Noodles McLennan that coming up. We should also mention the boys had some fiery hot takes yesterday. It was a late recording, so if you're watching this today, you can go check that out afterwards. Yesterday's Locked On Senators. On the other side of our interview with Jamie McLennan, special teams. And I will say, despite missing a few key players, the power play units still look real good. We'll get into those next. You're listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Yes, you guys heard about Game Time at the start of the episode. Well, are you sitting there scrambling to get tickets for the Sens home opener? You don't need to do that. You can use Game Time. Game Time is the perfect app to make buying tickets more fun than it is stressful. Game Time is fast and easy way to buy tickets for sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. Forget planning months in ahead. You can decide the day of. If you wake up on Saturday and you live in the Ottawa area and you're like, hey, I fancy myself a Sens home opener, you can go to the Game Time app or on the Game Time website right now and buy tickets. You can get tickets for $54 to get into the building. on the Game Time app and Game Time website. You can get flash deals on football, basketball, baseball, everything you want, and the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. In fact, if you find tickets in the same section in a row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And Ross loves this. You get images of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. Just 2 taps, 1, 2, boom, and you got your tickets. And they're sent directly to your phone. You don't got to search through your email. You don't got to dust off the printer. You're all set to go. So snag tickets without stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Shawarma Palace. I'm only days away from my return to Shawarma Palace. I can't wait to get to Ottawa, and I'll have a lot of options to choose from because there's 7 locations of Shawarma Palace. You can visit them on social media at Shawarma Palace Ottawa and see all of the different places you can grab a shawarma, whether it's a platter or a sandwich. That's up to you. I always like the Rideau Street location. It's nostalgic for me, but the food is always fresh, always delicious, and they're huge Sens fans just like you. So go grab a shawarma today. Get the platter, extra garlic, love it. Get the fresh pita in there. I can't wait to have it. You can too. And if you want them to bring it right to you, well, why not? Just order it on Uber Eats exclusively. So go get a Shawarma Palace today. Eat like a royal. Eat at Shawarma Palace. All right, Pilsy, before we get to the interview, we want to tee it up a little bit because it's one of those where when we have a recurring guest on, Pilsy, we just get right to it. We got too much to get into. So we were just asking Noodles, like, what's the deal with the Sens Leafs situation? We got a little rivalry brewing, and he just went right into it.
Yep, we just let it fly with Noodles, hit record, and got it going. Noodles did this interview from his Tesla. Now it's a Tesla, so it basically drives itself, so don't worry, he was being safe. And there are a little bit of rough patches along the way, but it's still a great interview. And anytime we can have Noodles on the show, we love having him.
And with that, whose goaltending is better? Is it the tandem of Joonas Korpisalo and Anton Forsberg? Or is it Ilya Samsonov and Joseph Woll?
Ottawa does. Ottawa's... because I think Korpisalo and Forsberg have a little bit now. The right now, I will say that, but 2 months from now, Joseph Woll could have shown that, because I think Woll has a really big upside, and I think Samsonov's decent. I think he's a good tandem guy. They might ask him to play 50 games this year, but maybe Samsonov, if he takes a step back, and maybe Woll, the rookie, kind of pushes through. But I think Woll's a good goaltender. I think Samsonov's a good goaltender, but I also like Ottawa's tandem. I think Forsberg is really suited as a tandem goalie, and I think Korpisalo is a really, really good goaltender. So if they can stay healthy, all 4 of them, I'd love to see what they can do for their teams.
Well, you got to make the trip out to the East Coast, Noodles. How was that?
Yeah, it was great. Honestly, it was great. Just seeing exhibition is a little bit like relaxing. Halifax was really cool. The Sidney Crosby, and Korpisalo was unbelievable that night. Sydney, I think in Sydney, they didn't really dress as great a lineup. So that was, I think fans are kind of expecting more. But both nights were great, just different. The Florida team had some good young players, but they didn't dress a top-tier squad that night. But the Halifax experience was awesome.
Oh, yeah, it's a great spot out there. All the East Coast people deserve to catch some hockey like that. Now, I want to get back to the goaltending tandem of Korpisalo and Forsberg. Coming from you, Noodles, how important is it for 2 goalies to have a good relationship? That was kind of a big part of the story is, hey, these guys already know each other. They've won together. They won a Calder Cup in the AHL with the Cleveland Monsters. They get along great. Is that a major factor, or can any 2 goalies kind of make it work and it doesn't matter that much?
I mean, at the NHL level, 2 goalies can make it work. But why not have a healthy competition? Why not have that relationship where they're buddies? Like, I think it's awesome. Like, I guarantee you I'll be calling games and I'll sit there and watch Forsberg on the bench cheering Korpisalo on and vice versa. You know, these guys have a relationship. And keep in mind, they're the only two guys in that room where they know what they're going through. Everybody else is players. So it's like, okay, go stop the puck. We don't care how it gets done. But those two know how tough it is, tough that position is. So I think it almost adds an extra layer to that tandem where I think that comfort where they both know what they're capable of. Yes, the net's up for grabs, but it's not going to be contentious. You're not going to be, you know, Korpisalo's not going to be sitting there with a voodoo doll on the bench, like going, you know, I hope bad things happen. If anything, this really is good for the organization because if both of them are healthy, they're both going to push each other.
Oh, I love it. It's about time Ottawa's had that, and obviously they went through the goalie injury issues last year, playing 7, one of the most in NHL history. I know you were always known for having some rock stars on your bucket, whether it was Nickelback or otherwise. Is Korpisalo's gold mask one of the nicer ones you've seen? I mean, that thing's just beautiful.
It is. Now, again, I don't have the flash and dash. Like, I think Korpisalo can pull it off. And European goaltenders, they can pull that off. But I couldn't. But I love it because it's unique. Like, I like guys being unique. You know, there's a lot of cookie cutter guys out there. It's got the logo and jazz it up, maybe their nickname. But if you have something that's dear to yourself or something where it's like, okay, I'm going all out, or you get the painter who goes all out. Because sometimes you give the painter, the guy who designs it, you give them a little bit of like leeway and go, design something for me and tell me, you know, and they go super creative and you're like, holy smokes. Like a few times I think I've had to dial my guy back and go, that's a little bit too crazy. But I love Korpisalo's mask and I think it suits him. Again, I think it's going to endear him to the fan base because I don't mind a guy that shows a little bit of personality, shows a little bit of what they're about, and some flash and dash or some flair on their mask.
What do you like better, that one or the Lalim's Martian back in the day?
I don't know. Lalim's Martian was cool, but it reminded me of like, remember in Bugs Bunny, that Gazoo guy or whatever? Like, that's what it always reminded me of. So I like Korpisalo's mask better, although I like Patrick's mask for being creative.
Well, Korpisalo's got the Martian on his mask as well. A little tribute there, just a little one on the side. Noodles, we did an episode yesterday doing hot takes for the Senators this season, and we had a bunch of people respond on Twitter with their hot takes. And a very common one was that people think that this tandem of Forsberg and Korpisalo could win the William Jennings trophy. How do you feel about that?
I'd like to see it. That means that DJ's system, the guys would be buying into it and tight. I do think that's a spicy meatball of a hot take. And the reason being is it's just, I love the Sens defensive core, especially their top 4. And then you throw in Brandstrom and Hamonic and, who's at 7? Clevin?
Right now they're up against the cap, Noodles. This is tough for me to even comprehend, but they're only running 6D right now. They had Max Connect up here as the 7th guy for a little bit, but yeah, it's either going to be him or Clevin.
But I really like their 4. And because you guys know, I think Sanderson's a superstar. Like I think he's legitimately a superstar. And that contract is going to look better and better. Look at Dahlin's contract, 11 times 8. And, Sanderson is going to push through and be a top-tier defenseman in the league for many years. The Jennings, I still think it's a bit rich, but I like it. I like that they're shooting for the moon because if that team's solid defensively, we know they can score, and we know their power play can score. 5-on-5, they've got to pick up their rate a little bit. But, I'd like to see it, but I think there should be some other tandems that'll push for it, put it that way.
Yeah, so last one on the goaltenders. One of Pilsey's hot takes was that Joonas Korpisalo will have more shutouts than he only has 4 in 221 games. So he thinks he's going to get 5 or more shutouts this year than he's had in his entire career. But that's only asking for 5. You think that's doable?
5 is doable, but again, it's like it's a big number. I'm trying to remember. I think I had 3 in one season, maybe 4 in Calgary.
I've got your stats here, Noodles. I'll tell you. You had 4 in Calgary in 03-04. That was your most.
Well, that was a
26 games. That's one hell of a season, Noodles.
That was a Daryl Sutter coach team. Keep in mind, like there was, the puck barely made its way to me. Put it that way. But I think they can do it. Like, again, it comes back to you feel good about yourself. It's all about the start, guys. Like they play 13 out of 17. We'll call them home, even though there's 2 in Europe. I think they might be those deemed at their home games because
Don't get me started, Noodles. The Leafs are going over there for 2 road games, and the Sens lose 2 home dates.
Yeah, which I don't care for, because that's not their home. Like, they're not getting the home advantage. They're not getting the home bounces. They're not the home crowd. But that being said, 13 out of 17 on home ice, we'll call it, or at least getting last change, all of that type of stuff. Yeah. They got to make some hay. You got to have a great start. You got to be in the mix right from the drop of the puck. So, I'm looking for big things from them this year. I don't want to get too excited, but I think they've got a chance to do something special. Now, that being said, is Pinto in the mix? Is Josh Norris available to them? That's a big bite when you go from Stützle to Ridley Gregg as opposed to Stützle, Pinto, Stützle, Norris, Pinto type of thing.
Hope you're enjoying our chat with Noodles. We'll get right back to it, but first, a word from our friends at FanDuel.
FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, and they're also the number 1 sportsbook in North America, so why would you go anywhere else? And right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. And they have a lot of fun promotions. That's why I love FanDuel. Right now, take advantage of this. All customers get 50% off profit boost token on any NHL wager for any NHL game today or tomorrow. I think I know what game I'm going to be eyeing tomorrow, Ross. So make sure you hop on that. And their refer a friend promo, give 150, get 150, that ends today. So make sure if you want to get that and have a buddy add it on to FanDuel as well, take advantage of those promos. You can bet on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season, and puck drop starts in the NHL tonight. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
All right, now back to Jamie McLennan. I know at Overdrive, you guys like to play level of concern. What's the bigger level of concern right now? That Pinto's unsigned or with Josh Norris's health?
That's 100% Josh Norris. It's 100% Josh Norris because, he's had 2 shoulder injuries and he's struggling, to be healthy to come into this training camp. And it's not like he's 32 years old. Shane Pinto's going to get signed. So he's going to get signed eventually. The business side will sort itself out. It's the health of a young star player. That's what concerns me. So my level of concern is very high when it comes to it because I think he's a rock star and he just needs to be healthy and hopefully he'll be fine.
Now, obviously, both centermen with the way things are right now, there's the high level of concern. So I want to flip it to the Pinto side. Is your level of concern low with Pinto then? You think they're going to get something done here? Or what's going to happen with Shane Pinto being the only RFA in the entire league not signed? And the Ottawa Senators, they can't even ice a full roster here based on the cap.
So my level of concern isn't that high, but I'm like, it should be higher because what worries me is, okay, say you get him signed today. Just he signs right now. We do the deal, okay? He's missed training camp.
Yep.
Like your timing, your cadence, everything. You're jumping on a moving train. So how many times if you go back and look at guys who missed training camp or guys who were in contract squabbles or guys who had injuries in training camp, like, do they hit the ground running or does it take them a while to get up to speed? And then God forbid, sometimes getting up to speed, you go from 0 to 100, you pull something because your groins aren't, used to going that fast, or your hip flexors or everything else. So that's what concerns me for Pinto, is getting him signed, but then him getting up to speed immediately, because yes, I'm sure he's working out. Yes, I'm sure he's skating every day. He's not skating at NHL level every day unless he's practicing with his team, and he's not doing that. So my level of concern should be higher. But that being said, I think they do get something done sooner than later. And these guys are in such great shape now. It might take him 3 or 4 practices to get up to speed, and away he goes. So I just want to get him signed, just like everybody in Sens land. But it is frustrating, especially looking at Josh Norris's situation. You do need depth down the center ice, and you do need a big start.
And especially Noodles with Pinto. Let's say in your hypothetical world, he does get signed, and he's going to be this team's third line center. Right now, he would be slated to play with Kubalik and Tarasenko, 2 guys he's never played with. So not only are you behind the 8 ball, you have no chemistry with these guys, and you're just expected to hop in there and have success. Like, how much of an extra layer is that?
It's an extra layer, and it wouldn't surprise me, though. Let's say he does get signed and Josh Norris plays. Could you not push Josh Norris over to the wing and have Pinto on a second line with guys that you played with before? Like, this is the luxury of having depth down the middle of the ice. I look at, for example, the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers could go McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, but they push Nugent Hopkins over to the wing so that they can get him top 6 minutes. You can do that with Pinto, and you might have to do that with Pinto. A lot of what ifs, put it that way.
Noodles, final question for me. We appreciate you doing this, and we look forward. Did I hear a rumor that you've got the Sens home opener?
I do. That's nice. Saturday, right, at 1:00?
We'll be boots on the ground, man. We'll see you at the rink. We'll be the goofs up in the rafters.
I will be there. I got both games, Saturday, Sunday, so I fly in late Monday night. I'm looking forward to being there. Whatever the Saturday morning, I'll be there probably about 11 a.m. and just getting, dialed in. I'm really excited about it, just because it's, when you look at it, like I want to lay eyes on it up close and personal and be part of it, and it was great to we had Steve Stais on our show the other day, and I played with Steve a little bit, and it's nice to, see a friendly face. I think I got to meet their new owner, and Michael Anlauer, and he's an unbelievable guy. So it's kind of like there's a breath of fresh air around there. Just everyone's excited and want to get to the drop of the puck. So I'll be there Saturday, and I think I'm between the benches, so it'll be pretty exciting for me.
A Saturday matinee sounds like a bad day to be a beer in the market afterwards, if you ask me.
Yeah, I probably will end up doing that. Be out of the rink by 4:00 and not on a flight home because we have a game the next day. So I probably will be at some form of establishment enjoying myself.
Got the green light.
Probably have a green light. Yeah. It's not like I'm not skating on Sunday, so I'll be fine. So
well, we always appreciate you, Noodles. If we see you, beers on us, man. We can't thank you enough for being a friend of the show. I believe this is your 4th time recurring guest on Locked On Sens.
Love it.
We truly appreciate you, and we look forward to having you on again. Have a great call this weekend. I can't tell you how excited people are that it's a TSN game for the home opener. I know we'll be in the game, but people truly do see you guys as a cut above. So thanks for everything, man.
Best in class.
Well, appreciate it. And I wanted to do the interview driving, just like Connor Bedard did his interview the other day driving.
Oh, man, 2 hands on the wheel there, brother.
I got one. I'm in a Tesla. It's driving itself, so I'm fine. So, all right, guys, we'll chat soon.
Stick taps to Noodles for joining us. Really fun conversation as always. I feel like the next time we got to get him in person, Pillsy. Enough of these car interviews. We got to get him boots on the ground. He's got stories for days, and we're always happy to have him on the show.
Or Ross, we just hop in the back of the Tesla and we just do a full Tesla interview.
He would have to squeeze in the middle, though.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
So interesting is the Sens special teams right now. And for anyone who's thinking we're so negative, the first segment, Pillsy, we did kind of go a bit off the rails. And I think it's just a matter of passion. We want this team to be successful. That's all I want. 7 years without playoffs. Let's go. Let's get this show on the road. And we did say it, Pillsy. we've always been accused of being too lenient, oh, it's okay, we'll get them next time. A very positive outlook, and I still want that. But at the same time, we got to raise the bar a little bit to what's acceptable. When in the first 20 games, Pilsy, over the last number of years, this team just loses any chance they have at making the playoffs.
I mean, Ross, I don't think we're raising the bar too high to ask that this team dresses 12 forwards on opening night. Like that, I feel like that is where even the Arizona Coyotes are stepping over that bar. I feel like that's a bar the Sens should hop over. So that's where most of the frustration comes. And especially, like you mentioned, this team needs to get off to a hot start. It's so important that we get off to a hot start for the Ottawa Senators.
And the league is doing everything they can to get Ottawa off to a hot start. 9 of the first 13 games are at home. And when I say home, not like Noodles is saying, because it's not home in Sweden.
That's not their home.
That's not their home. But what is the Canadian Tire Center, where 9 of the first 13 games of the season will be held. And then after they come back from the 2 games overseas, their next 2 games are in Ottawa as well. But 6 of their first 9 home games are against opponents who missed the playoffs last year.
Ooh.
And 5 of their first 13 games are divisional matchups, including a game against Buffalo, 2 against Tampa, and Detroit. Like, these are games that you have to have. You cannot win 6 of the first 20 games anymore. It's just not going to cut it. So that's where my frustration is coming from, that the general manager has not given all the assets that the team has to be at their best with no Pinto. And obviously Norris, we're hoping he's healthy, but that's not an organizational failure. You could say maybe he should have got the surgery right away last year and not tried to rehab for 3 months, but I'm not trying to pick apart hairs that thinly. I just want this team to have all their players so that they have the best chance to win. That's all.
Yeah, I'm not apologizing for being upset in the first segment. Like, my nickname is Positive Pilsy. Every time Doodling Daryl does a doodle of me, I've got the Positive Pilsy sign on. He made me a shirt that says Positive Pilsy. I am typically a very positive person, so I'm not gonna backtrack being upset in segment 1. And I expect more from this team. That's all. And Ross, one thing that this team did very well last year, at least for most of the season, was their play on the special teams, especially on the power play.
And you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, we've pulled up the practice power play units from today. Thanks to Claire Hanna, friend of the show, for the combinations here. Brady Tkachuk, put that in any sort of permanent marker you can, that he's going to be the net front presence on the first unit. I love these units. I mean, Still do, without missing a few key guys. But they've got Stützle on his strong side on the left wall, which he loves navigating and running the power play through him on the left wall. Drake Batherson in the middle, kind of roaming, making sure he can make plays, get pucks to where they need to be, retrieve pucks, be hard on the forecheck, and be hard on retrieving when there's a giveaway down low. You don't want an easy clear. Get him kind of rovering around. And then Claude Giroux will be also on his strong side, right shot on the right half wing wall. I found this to be the most interesting move because Giroux played a lot last year on the second power play unit. So I found that to be pretty interesting. And the question a lot of people were asking, Pilsy, which defenseman gets that top power play spot? It's Thomas Chabot getting the opportunity. So let's do the first unit first, and then we'll focus on the second one afterwards. Your thoughts on how that will compare to the rest of the league?
I think in a Norris-less world for the Ottawa Senators, that top power play unit is exactly what we expected, Ross? Like, everyone is in their right place. I would even say I expected Chabot to be on that first unit. I think Sanderson eventually will take over that, but for now, I think that's fair that Chabot's earned the right to start there. It's his job to lose. I love Giroux and Batherson where they are, because they are very good at setting up that 1-2 bumper touch pass one-timer play. And I think Stützle on that left side, that's going to be a threat for him to be able to take shots from over there. And also, more importantly, his playmaking ability. And he's going to be able to really move the puck and cycle it. I think everything's going to run through Stützle on this power play.
And for the second unit, net front presence will be Ridley Gregg. Dominic Kubalik will be in the middle of the ice. Vladimir Tarasenko will be on his one-timer side. So will Jacob Chychrun on the right half-wing wall. And Jake Sanderson will be quarterbacking the second power play unit from up top. This power play unit, Pilsy, is going to get pucks on net. Like this power play unit has 3, if not 4, if you want to count Sanderson too. But I would just say 3. Tarasenko, Kubalik, Chychrun, all one-timer shot threats.
Yeah, and Ridley Gregg does a great job in front of the net. I think, again, this is a Pinto-less world. I think with Pinto, you'd want him as the net front guy, especially we talked with Sens prospect years ago about Pinto's ability to tip pucks in front of the net. He's very good at that, so that's what you want there. And I think Sanderson's going to do a great job of being the facilitator, the quarterback, if you will, of this power play unit. And we honestly, Ross, I just want this to be alternating between teeing up Tarasenko and teeing up Chychrun, whoever has a open passing lane for that one-timer, because both of them are so good on their offsides at that.
Yeah, I'm actually liking what I'm seeing here, despite 2 top centermen out of the lineup. Like, I'm just trying to put, obviously, Greg, I think, would be the first placeholder. If Pinto comes back, that's an easy swap. But like, if and when Josh Norris comes back, like, I don't think there's an easy maneuver here to get one guy off the power play to put him in, because obviously he's going to be in the Giroux spot, I would imagine. But then Giroux, you just take him out for Kubalik? Like, Tarasenko? I don't know, man, because Kubalik, you want a guy who can rip the pill like he can.
Tarasenko has a proven track record of doing it better. So I think, that's what would happen, Ross. Norris would take Giroux's spot, and Giroux would take Kubalik's spot.
Okay, well, those are the Sens power play units. How about the penalty kill? What's going on with the PK? Let's take a peek here at the practice penalty kill units, pardon me. And Rourke Chartier clearly impressing DJ Smith enough that he's going to get some special teams time to start the season. It's Rourke Chartier with Mathieu Joseph, Eric Brandstrom, and Travis Hamonic on the back end. The second unit, Mark Kastelik with Parker Kelly, and then Shabbat and Zub. My first question on this: how do you feel about A, Thomas Shabbat killing penalties, and 2, not having him with his regular partner? Because I think that's where I get Zub being a PK guy, but it's just strange for me that you would separate them, because then one was on the ice and one wasn't, and then how are you going to negotiate getting them back together once you're back to 5-on-5?
Yeah, Ross, I'm not a huge fan of Shabbat on the PK, especially kind of the defensive side of his game is not his strong side. I mean, Shabbat and Zub, they've played a decent amount of time together, so there's some familiarity there. But I would prefer to have Sanderson there, and Shabbat's already getting top power play time. He's on the top unit. We have been trying to cut down Shabbat's ice time, adding him to the PK, where, as far as I'm concerned, he's barely played, is a bit of a head scratcher for me. And as far as I'm concerned, Sanderson's your best defensive player. I was going to say defenseman, but honestly, your best defensive player. So I would much rather have Sanderson there.
I'm shocked Sanderson's not on the PK. I really am.
Weird move. And especially you talk about D partners. Well, Zub's Sanderson's D partner, so nothing changes there. And
last year, Sanderson and Hamonic as a defensive unit on the PK was one of their best.
Actually, yeah, Ross, I would put Branny on that second unit with Zub, and then Sanderson and Hamonic as the first PK unit defense pair. I think that's probably the best way to go.
I guess what I'd say then, now you're jumbling every single one of your pairs. Because then what are you going to do coming out of the peak? I guess Chychrun Shabbat would be a pair. You're just shuffling these 2 units.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as the penalty killing goes, I think it's okay. It's obviously not ideal, but I think that would be the way I would have it.
Interesting. Lots to discuss, dissect with this Ottawa Senators team. They certainly don't make it, a quiet day. I think I nailed it right off top of the show. It's anything but calm before the storm, and they're playing the Hurricanes tomorrow to continue that little metaphor there. But Pillsy, all that said, tomorrow we're going to have to get some levity to all this. We're going to record right when the Senators hit their morning skate, and then we've got a game day, which means the postcast is back, Pillsy. I'm so excited for the postcast to return. Season 3. Can you believe it? Season 3 of the postcast. But mercifully, we missed November, the first year of the postcast. We actually decided after watching them win, 4 out of 10, 11, 12 games in November, we're like, hey, this team needs more post-game coverage. So let's do that.
Yeah, that was our big decision. I love the postcast. That's one where there's no prep. There's no planning.
We watched the game. That's kind of prep.
Yeah, fair. But the game is over. Grab a quick beverage of your choice. sit down and let's hash it out. And I would argue some of our best content is immediate reaction stuff, and when we're just letting it fly, and that's what the postcast is. People get involved in the chat, and we just have a good time chalking it up and shooting the breeze. So the postcast, I am so glad to say, will be back.
And also back the Glebe Central Pub. Shout out to Glebe Central Pub that gets to, have the postcast as their own, the Glebe Central Pub. And they also have the shuttles to and from the games. We're going to be taking it on Sunday. So get your tickets for Sunday, GlebeCentralPub.com. And they've got all the list of the games that are available to and from the game for $17. What a deal. Unreal. Don't have to worry about anything but having a good time. Pillsy, any final thoughts from you on today's show? I got one.
Yeah, okay. Final thoughts. Just because, Ross, I think we kind of glanced over this, but interesting that Josh Bailey didn't earn a contract with 7 points in 6 games?
6 and 6.
6 and 6. Like, that's going to be a little frustrating for him, being like, I thought I played pretty well, point per game pace. But I think the old Sens would have hired him on, and the new Sens are like, hey, we can't even get enough skaters on the ice here. We don't have the money to do it. And he was a step behind a lot of the time. Sure, the points are there, and his hockey IQ is still a very valuable asset. But I think it was the right move to let him go. And hey, you know what? I'm wishing the best for Josh Bailey. I'm sure he'll find a home somewhere else this season.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, he hasn't signed yet, right? If Ottawa gets in injury trouble, there's a commodity that at least has some familiarity with the team. So I don't know. Maybe they circle back. I don't know. I can't say one way or another, but they weren't convinced with the points. And a lot of those were power play points, Billsy.
And secondary assists. Yeah.
He's not going to play power play if he's here, right? So
no.
I think from that standpoint, it's all good. But yeah, Josh Bailey, it's just funny. I mentioned it after too. Like, he wore an A in preseason, but then gets let go. I just found that so strange. But anyway, neither here nor there. My final thoughts, and this is a Belleville Sens roster move. Levi Merrilainen will start in the ECHL. The Senators, I would say, arguably top goalie prospect. Him and Matt Sogard, I think, could battle it out. Mando had obviously a great preseason game. The half game he went in, he was phenomenal coming off the bench against Winnipeg there at home. I think that this is the right move. It's a consistent trend that the Ottawa Senators do, where the youngest, most inexperienced goalie gets to go to the ECHL. Happened with Hogberg, happened with Decord, happened with Mando, right? I might even be missing one in there as well.
Yeah, and I was I was a part of the Belleville Senators press conference there via Zoom, and David Bell mentioned that Justin Peters kind of had the final say, and he thought that was the right move, and they want to get Levy playing in games. The more games, the better. But Ross, what a move, going from being one of the top Liga goalies to now playing in the ECHL. That's going to be interesting to see how Levi Merrilainen adjusts to that, because the ECHL, as far as a goalie goes, it is a gong show. Like, like the first save is the least of your work. Well, I shouldn't say that, but the first save. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for picking that up. That's what I wanted to get to, because you got to be expecting to make second and third saves. You got to be expecting to play 2-on-0s quite often. Penalty shots are going to happen. There's going to be man advantages all over the place. Defensive structure is not as tight as it is in Belleville, or even in Liga for that matter, or in the NHL. Levy's played there. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be a new challenge for Merrilainen living in the ECHL world.
Reminder, the Belleville Sens used 10 goalies last year. They had 12 goalies dressed, 10 of them played in games, and 7 of them played more than one game. So don't think that Levi Merrilainen is going to Allen for the season. He's going to have a bag packed by the door, and he'll be on a flight pretty quickly, I would imagine, back up to Belleville. Now, one other note I want to touch on with the Belleville Sens, Jabril Toure. The Senators went the direction I was hoping they would. He's eligible to play in the AHL, sure. He's eligible to play in the ECHL, sure. But he was a rookie in Sudbury last year, despite being 19 years old. He was a rookie. So they have sent him back to be an overager in Sudbury. He has so many raw talents. I want him to get puck touches, and that's the place he's going to do it the most. So Jabril Toure will be playing in the OHL this season.
I love that move, Ross. I think it's the correct move with a raw talent defenseman with that size and that ability to skate. there's no rush for him. There's lots of right-hand shot defensemen in the mix here in the Ottawa Senators organization. So take your time with Toure, and I expect to see big things from him in Sudbury this year.
All right, big things for us coming up on the postcast tomorrow. If you missed the late drop yesterday, hot takes, not only ours, over 60 hot takes on the show, Pilsy, because we went through every single one of the citizens who wrote in on Twitter at Sens Central. We're going to be retweeting them throughout the day as well at Sens Central. And man, it's finally here. Tomorrow, we're going to bring positivity. We're going to bring a mindset of, all right, win one. If they get off, because I'm kind of expecting a loss tomorrow. Carolina's that good. It's a tough environment, home game for them. Like, if they lose the first one and then win on Saturday and Sunday, it's all good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll co-sign that, Ross.
So no panic if they lose on Wednesday.
No, if we're panicking in game 1 of 82, it's going to be a long season.
Josh Norris traveled with the team. Let's hold on to that sliver of hope. I don't think he'll play tomorrow, but hopefully on the weekend, Josh Norris will be ready to go. We'll be ready to go. We'll have tomorrow's episode for you around noon Eastern, and we will be ready to rip the 2023-24 Senators season. Enjoy the appetizer tonight. 3 games on tap. You are all diehard Nashville Predators fans. Let's get those Lightning out to a losing start to their season. We're already scoreboard watching. And Pilsy, a reminder that because of the terms on the Alex DeBrincat trade draft pick, we're cheering against both Boston and Detroit.
Correct.
For numerous reasons. Not one. We're cheering against both teams for division's sake and for the draft pick's sake. So that's that for Brandon Piller. I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.